JB Cycles here with an update on November the 24th, and this is a follow-up to my medium-term cycles. So here I'm showing the 16-week cycle, or the 80 trading day ringing cycle named by Terry Laundry. So as we see, this seems to be the dominant cycle, at least going back to the COVID lows. And it projects a top around where we are now, and I would like to look at some other cycles. Earlier, going back 15-20 years, I discovered a 25-week cycle, and it worked extremely well in Norway until about 10 years ago it stopped working that well. And last time I looked into it, it kind of looked more like a 26-week cycle or a semi-annual cycle, and that's I got that kind of confirmed when I looked into it. And it also seemed to be a quarterly cycle, so I have added the quarterly cycle here. And what is that? Well, it may just be an earnings cycle. So if you look at earnings season starting mid-April here, for example, we see market starts to rally a bit before the earnings season starts, and then we get beat estimate, and we rally on, and we get overbought, and then we have a pullback, and then the next earnings season starts mid-July. We start to rally a bit before, and so that could explain the cycle. Also notice it is strongest around March and September. I mean the downside. That could be related to the semi-annual geomagnetic cycle around the equinoxes. So as we see, we have a deep correction here in March, and around September, around March, around September, around March, around September. So yeah, a 26-week cycle, or perhaps a 13-week cycle. And then we have the 10-week cycle, and I find that kind of interesting, although I must admit I haven't studied that well in the S&P going back in historical data, but I have for the Norwegian market. And this cycle, projecting it back 40 years, it works extremely well. It's not always that dominant, it can be eaten up by larger cycles, but you see it at the major highs or lows. So sometimes it disappears a bit, and then other times it's more dominant. But the same cycle, not shifting it, not changing it, but going back 40 years, it's there in the background all the time. So here in the US, S&P, we see it work here, kind of, well, here it worked, kind of there, here, there, kind of there, here, there, not any real low here, kind of here, but here in the early COVID rally it didn't work that well, but after that it's okay. So then let's add these cycles together. Well, first I could be showing you all of them at the same time, but that looks kind of messy. So let's look at the composite. I usually don't like using composite cycles, but yeah, let's do it this time. And well, as you see, the 80-week cycle is clearly dominant here, but it looks nice, and my experience is when I do this, and looking back in time and try to extrapolate the cycles forward, often then they fail. It looks perfect when you go back in time, but trying to use this going forward, often not so. So what could happen here? We are at cycle high. We're going down here, but we could have a bullish right translation. We could rally all the way up to New Year, and breaking up above this trend line and the 200-day moving average, and then have just a small, if we could go up like this and this and this, and yeah. So is this 80 trading day cycle, is it still bearish and will go down to make new lows, or is it bullish right translated? So let's look for some clues. Here I have the 3.5 year cycle. It works for over 100 years. And looking at this current cycle here in red, as you see, it doesn't have much more downside. It has a low around February, March, and it's not that steep these last months of this cycle. But it favors downside a couple of months. And then I have noticed that there is a pattern where every second of this cycle is a deeper low, making it a 7-year cycle. As we see, we are here now, back 7 years, here, there. You can see the pattern. All these 7 years looks like, yeah. So here's the 7-year cycle, and as you see, the 7-year cycle goes a bit longer down. Here the 3.5 year cycle ended. It said here I'm satisfied, now we can rally, and the 7-year cycle goes on a little bit further into the summer. So both these cycles suggest that this 80 trading day cycle still shouldn't break up and end the bear market. It should go down to a lower low, but you can't know for certain. And well, when timing the tops here, then we can use my 4-week cycle to find the exact possible top here. And now there's a problem with the 4-week cycle because it changed in April, May, where we had one cycle that expanded and then we had a new rhythm, and then in September, October we had a cycle that contracted, and then we have another rhythm. So if we look at this purple line, I have put in data into Sunday, and this shows the possible new 4-week cycle. And as you see, it tops here around today, or at least beginning next week. It points down into around December the 7th. And then we start a new bullish cycle, and then you get the Fed decision around, is it December the 14th? So if, well, judging from these cycles here, the market is prepared to react bearish on the Fed decision. But if we have some surprises or something that the bulls like, we could have the seasonal Christmas rally, and we could get this bullish scenario. Anyway, it looks like we should have downside into a week into December, so should soon start a pullback, and then it's all up to the Fed. The cycles have kind of decided they want to go down, but it's still up to the Fed. So see you on the next one.